Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So, the story I want to focus on tonight is something that people on social networks have been talking about since last week. Um, Anybody who is familiar with how Black people are treated because of our physical characteristics, you'll be able to identify with this story. Just like in the United States and Brazil, there is this type of resistance, this type of rejection of Afro textured hair. What we call kinky curly hair. There's a thing against people wearing braids in certain social settings or professional settings. Um, Black hair has been an issue, a controversial issue for centuries. Ever since Africans were brought over to the Americas. Every characteristic that we have, a natural physical feature, is something that's been rejected by the mainstream society. So it's always been a struggle of being able to be accepted. Um, that in turn has affected our own acceptance of each other in our own communities. That's where you get this idea of bad hair and good hair. Well, basically the same thing that you have in the States is what you have in Brazil. Bad hair, good hair. In Brazil, Portuguese becomes cabelo bom or cabelo ruim. And Black women and men go through these issues with their hair texture and how society sees this particular type of hair texture. Um, I have to say it has been over probably a decade or so, maybe longer. It's been Black Brazilian women who have led the charge to push for people taking pride in having this kinky curly hair texture. They've been the one who have marched in the streets, for pride of having this texture of hair, calling for change in the society that rejects Afro textured hair. And I would say that because of Black women, Black men were actually able to make that transition as well. For years, Black Brazilian men would cut their hair, all the way down to the scalp with just, a little bit of hair showing. What they would get a cut with the clippers in the barbershop down by using what they call máquina zero, which means like it's the lowest you can go on the scalp without making somebody completely bald. And the idea was, if I cut my hair as low as possible, people won't see the texture of my hair and discriminate against me. But because Black women in Brazil have marched and pushed for this, it was some years later that Black men started, joining the party, say, hey, why can't I wear my hair? Why can't I grow my hair out? Developing a pride in their own hair texture. Okay. During the pandemic, I came across many stories where Black men were starting to grow out their own hair. In Brazil, it just wasn't, it was always frowned upon for somebody to walk around with an afro. Um, so this is an intriguing development. In Brazil today, among Black men and Black women, you see a wide range of different hairstyles. You still get people who keep their hair pretty low. You see the curls and the waves. You see people braiding their hair. You see the big afros. You see dreadlocks. This has been quite a change in Black aesthetics in Brazil in the last, I'm going to say specifically the last decade, because it's been building before that. So I have to, just mention this to lay down the groundwork for why today's story is pretty big news. Journalist Aline Aguiar hosts Brazil's top news program, Jornal Nacional, wearing braids, and she earns praise on social networks. Now, Jornal Nacional is on Brazil's top television network, Rede Global or Global TV. So it's always been uh, Black women have taken a long time to get into the newsroom as anchors, hosting, news programs, particularly on Global. So to see a Black woman get on TV and then also wear braids, where uh, in a Brazil that rejects natural hairstyles and braids as well. It's like, okay, you can go to the party dressed like that. You can go to the dance dressed like that. You can hang out. Well, I'm saying dress. You can have your hair that way, but not in this professional setting. And there's all types of evidence. Again, what I say all the time. Um, I could create whole blogs and whole channels just on these individual topics. So let me go ahead and get into this story for today. And I'm quite sure most of you will be able to, identify with this story. Okay, so this is journalist Aline Aguiar. This is the hairstyle she was rocking on the news. It's been about a week now since she was seen on television, presenting the news as a host with her hair braided. It may sound like something that's just frivolous, but this is pretty big. Again, just if the discrimination that there's been against Afro textured hair, for decades. So to see a Brazilian woman, a black woman get on TV with her hair braided, it is pretty big news. So let's just get into this. The first part of this story was written by Isadora Santos and is courtesy of the O Tempo website. So last Saturday, the 9th, Aline Aguiar, a well-known global Minas host, surprised the public when she shared the Jornal Nacional bench with Cesar Tralli with a special hairstyle. Now, global Minas Gerais is a state in Brazil. So global the global network has different affiliates in different states throughout the country. So you'll have global, Bahia, global Minas, global Sao Paulo. So she's in Minas. So her choice of Nago braids generated a warm and positive reaction among viewers and on social networks. The repercussions were not limited to the public. Also, journalist Maju Coutinho also praised Aline Aguiar's choice, referring to her as braided and perfect, beautiful. By choosing to wear an African-oriented hairstyle, something that should be common in a country with a Black majority and which has African culture in its structure, the journalist not only brought an important representation to the screen. Now, just to remind you, if you don't remember, Maju Coutinho is also a journalist on the Global Television Network. I had a video about her, I guess, about a month and a half or so ago when she appeared. She is currently, I think she's hosting the Sunday evening news journal called Fantástico. But Maju Coutinho has risen the ranks at the Global Television Network. She started off as kind of like a street reporter, for some years, just putting in her time. Then they put her in the newsroom as the first like black weather girl on the Jornal Nacional news program. She was just blasted with racist comments on social networks, but she kept moving. She's hosted the top news program. Now, like I said, I think she's on the Sunday evening news journal. A couple of weeks ago, about a month and a half ago, something like that, I had a story about Maju where she appeared on another global morning talk show where she basically checked the blonde host of the show after the blonde called her a morena on television. And she says, "Don't call me morena. I'm a black woman." Definitely check out that video so you can get a background on what this term morena actually means. So let's keep moving with today's story. Again, Aline Aguiar, this woman in the picture, rocking braids on the nation's top news program. So let's keep it moving. The host, again, Aline Aguiar, is a declared fan of the look and has already worn it on MG1. Journalist Aline Aguiar, host of TV Global's MG1 Journal, took over the Journal Nacional news desk on Saturday, December the 10th. She was congratulated on social media not only for her professional achievement, but also for the Nago braids she showed off on camera. So apparently she made a transition from hosting the Minas Gerais global news program, where she's now, I guess she's moved into the national seat to be an anchor on the Jornal Nacional here. So that's another accomplishment. Wonderful and in braids. You are necessary, competent. I love seeing you on national television, says one follower. Another wrote, "It's a different time. My first job in a clinic. The requirement to be accepted was if I took out the braids I had just put in for the job interview." So this commenter, she understands why this is such a big deal. She's talking about when she was going to a job interview, in order to get that job, they told her, well, you have to take those braids out of your hair. Next comment says, gratitude, a braided black woman. The most beautiful image on television tonight. My eyes filled with tears. Gratitude, gratitude. So what you're seeing up until this point is that the people who saw her on television are identifying with her. They're identifying with the struggle because these women know how hard it is. Black women for years just straightened their hair the best that they could in order to be considered quote unquote acceptable. Um, any attempts at trying to keep the natural hair texture was rejected by the mainstream society. If you want to get a job, you're going to have to take those braids out. So people are identifying with a black woman, light skinned, but, a black woman appearing on the nation's top news program wearing braids is really significant for a lot of these people. The next comment says, your hair was a paradigm break, unprecedented in the presentation of this journal. I just loved it, said another. Traditionally, Nago braids are now a symbol of the beauty of Black people. For example, they are featured on the cover of the album Lemonade by the American singer Beyonce. Read below the reaction of some followers published on social networks and reproduced by media outlets such as Extra or Extra, as they would say in Brazil, and O Dia. These are both newspaper outlets. They're also online. What a duo. How representative. I'll never forget my telejournalism teacher saying, you'll never get a job on TV with that hair. Cut it. Watching you on JN today, I felt very proud of our ancestry. I'm so proud to see you on TV, said another follower. So here's another commenter who's sharing her, experiences with trying to wear braids or, African texture hairstyle. Her telejournalism teacher said, you'll never get a job with that hair. You need to cut that. So, like I said, if you're from other nations where the African aesthetic is frowned upon, then you understand what they're talking about here. Because several of these women are just recollecting, about the struggle they went through trying to wear their own natural hairstyles. The goddess Aline Aguiar, presenting Journal Nacional with her hair beautifully braided. This is the tweet. Aline Aguiar is a declared fan of braids. Her Instagram has highlights section dedicated to them, and the hairstyle has already been seen on MG1. She presented Jornal Nacional alongside journalist Cesar Charali, who is now in charge of Jornal Hoje. Okay, so Aline has made her own transition into wearing natural hair. Now, this below is an interview with the Mundo Negro website that's called "It's an Achievement That I Love to Flaunt," says Aline Aguiar about her hair, about her natural hair. So what I have to point out here is that Aline herself has gone through this whole, let's say, transition into the acceptance of her natural hair. Because growing up in Brazil, if your African features come out, you're going to be ridiculed for it. You're going to be, you could be you could be the target of bullying. You might hear racist comments. And Brazilian society rejecting African textured hair just leads people to do whatever they can to try to fit in. And usually for Black women, that means to straighten their hair. So Aline actually talked about this in a TED Talks video where she talked about her own transition into accepting her own hair. I forget, it might be a 10 or 15-minute video, but this particular video is titled "My Afro Hair in the Construction of My Identity" by Aline Aguiar. And she's talking about her own process of accepting her natural hair, and seeing it as something that she's proud of, as far as what she looks like. So this is just, it's like I said, it's a 10 to 15-minute video, but I just took this little section here. She went on and on. It was a lot of things that she brought out. And I'm sure she speaks for a lot of Black women in Brazil. So in one particular part of the video, she says, it's in this process of much transformation, I also began to question other things, asking, for example, why we subject ourselves to this straightening process, which is violent. A very strong product that sometimes even burned my scalp. Why did I do that to myself? Because we reject kinky curly hair, because we consider Afro textured hair bad. Okay, so let's understand. In Brazil, kinky curly hair is what they call cabelo crespo. It's real intriguing what she broke down talking about her own identity development, just dealing with her own hair. Okay. So in this interview with Mundo Negro, she talks a little bit about this. She says it's an achievement that I love to flaunt. This interview is by Silvio Nascimento. So journalist Aline Aguiar of TV Global's Minas Gerais affiliate is part of a group of Black women who work in front of the television cameras every day wearing their hair in different ways. Whether in braids, loose with volume, or various hairstyles, hair, especially that of Black women, occupies a prominent role when it comes to television. In the third interview in the series about Black journalists and their hair on television, Aline Aguiar shared with Mundo Negro a little bit about her history, inspirations, and Black references in journalism. She says, I remember the day Maju, again, Maju being Maria Coutinho, I just talked about her, when Maju presented the Jornal Nacional for the first time at the beginning of 2019. It was very emotional for me. It was as if she was saying, you can be here too, she recalled. So something else to remember, the representation that a lot of Black women felt in seeing Maju Coutinho sitting as an anchor on the nation's top news program. Coach Maju Coutinho, she moved her way up the ladder to, like I said, she's hosting a Sunday evening news journal now. So a lot of people were looking up to her. When Black people make it in Brazil, it's like everybody is there to celebrate. It's like, if you can do it, I can do it. So hair transition and the empowerment that comes with knowing yourself and your own history were Aline's great allies in freeing herself from chemical processes that damaged her hair and with which she no longer identified. For her, being able to wear her natural hair at the news desk is an ostentation. Here in Brazil, we are understanding that there is beauty in our natural hair, and that is liberating. It's an achievement that I particularly love to flaunt. So moving into the interview section with Mundo Negro, the first question that came across is, what was your hair like when you first started appearing on TV? Was it a style that you felt comfortable wearing on camera? She responds, I had straightened hair when I started working as a reporter. In fact, I started using chemicals to straighten my hair when I was a teenager. Since everyone has straight hair, I realized I had to do it that way. And for about 15 years, I reproduced this ritual without asking myself why I was doing it. So what she's saying here, obviously, is that she just did what everybody else did. It was a natural thing that if you have a certain hair texture, if you have a curl pattern in your hair, it's better for you to straighten it out if you're going to be in Brazil. Next question says, still at the beginning, which Black journalists did you admire not only for their content, but also for their aesthetics, and what impressed you about them in terms of their look? So Aline responds, unfortunately, I have few references, but I can name a few, such as Gloria Maria, this woman right here who died. I guess Gloria Maria has been gone about a year now. Considered a trailblazing journalist, one of the first well-known Black journalists on Brazilian television. Then you have Dulcinea Novaes, and then you have Zileide Silva, who's still on global TV today. It's only more recently that we've been seeing more of each other on TV, and I'm glad that's the case. I remember the day Maju presented Jornal Nacional for the first time at the beginning of 2019. It was very emotional for me. It was as if she was saying, you can be here too. And what a thing. In November of the same year, I was on the JN news desk representing my state, Minas Gerais, at the celebrations for the 50th anniversary of the newscast. The next question. Curly natural hair wasn't seen as a professional look. How have you dealt with this throughout your career? Have you always worn your hair curly? Even today, she responds, even today, unfortunately, there is an idea of cabello crespo or kinky curly hair as messy, hair that needs to be tamed or controlled. This is part of a social imagery constructed during and after colonization. In Africa, hair was a strong symbol of identity. You could tell a person's marital status, social position, and religion from their hair. When Africans arrived in Brazil as slaves, their hair was shaved off with the justification of hygiene. But the intention was to erase their belonging, their memory. Quite a violence. Okay. Let's keep this moving here. Then with the Eurocentric imposition of white as beautiful, of straight hair as good, kinky curly hair was considered ugly and bad. Grada Quilomba, a Portuguese writer, says that we only become different if we have someone to dictate the norm, the standard, and the standard is white. Understanding this construction helped me get through my hair transition and take a stand against racist comments. So this is the Portuguese writer Grada Quilomba. A lot of Black Brazilian women identify with her writing. Next question says, in the U.S., where civil rights issues are well advanced, most Black journalists still wear their hair straight and even wear wigs and like hair pieces or weaves. Why is it different in Brazil? And in your opinion, would wearing straight hair be a problem? She responds, I don't think wearing straight hair is a problem, but as long as it's an option, we have to ask ourselves, why am I straightening my hair? Because I want to, or because I've been told it's better this way? That's the difference. It seems to me that in the US, women of African descent have become very accustomed to the straight model. They had and have little reference, and this is part of their culture. Who am I to judge a culture? Here in Brazil, we are understanding that there is beauty in our natural hair, and this is liberating. It's an achievement that I particularly love to boast about. So that's intriguing what they're, where the interview went at the end there, because in general, Black Brazil looks to Black America as, some a community to that they should aspire to. They still connect African Americans with the civil rights and the Black Power movement. But in this particular era, this particular genre or subject, they, in some ways, it's like, okay, well, why is it that we're able to wear our natural hair, but in the United States, it seems that Black women are still into straightening, wearing weaves and wigs. It is a good question to ask. I have my own answers for that, but I'm not going to discuss that today. Over the years, dealing with the hair issue, I used to get my own hair braided. And I just became aware of the hair issues that we have in the Black community that for many years I just wasn't familiar with. And then looking in the Brazilian context, and here it is, I see the same thing. So I wanted to just share a couple of articles here that really give you an idea that, as I've said, this is something that Brazilians can identify with and Americans can identify with. No braids here. Woman must pay employer 15,000 reais. This is another story where, okay, this is the same woman. Black female employee of marketing company humiliated and fired after denouncing racism. Her boss told her to remove her braids. So then what I found intriguing about that is that she was the one who was forced to remove her braids, but then she was the one who was forced to have to pay the employer. Like, what's up with that? I didn't really get that story. Here you have another story where a guy works at a restaurant and he's told he comes to work and then he's not allowed to work because he has his hair braided. Kinky curly hair, Afro braids, and racial criminalization, something that's connected to Black hair textures. This is from the Blogueiras Negras website. This is the same story that I just posted with the guy. After the restaurant's owner barred him from wearing braids, he got fired. So he actually he screenshot some of the messages that were talking to him about, what his hair was looking like. They didn't want to let him work with his hair braided. So again, the same issue you have in Brazil. Here's another story. A server at a military school said she was a victim of racism after, doing braids in her hair. So I'm going to just scroll down and look at what this, okay, so this is the woman here. This is how she had her hair braided. Let me see where it is here. Okay, so the conversation was recorded, and basically one of the heads of the school that she was going to, it says right here, it says, if you want to use the braids, that's okay. You use them, but I'm going to request that they remove you from here. So this is something that's pretty common in Brazil. So this is why I'm saying why this is such a big deal that this woman actually wore braids on the nation's top news journal. It's like, it really is a big deal. So she got all the support online. A lot of Black women looked at her with pride. Like, this is it's like I said, it may not seem like that much of a big deal, but it does show that in some years, Black Brazilians have come a long way in marking their own territory and being able to accept themselves for how they look. So anyway, I just wanted to share this story today. Curious to know what you thought. Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel, click the notification bell so you'll know when my next video goes up. If you feel like the video or this channel is deserving, definitely feel free to drop a couple of coins in my cash out, which is noted there. Mr. Marcus 72, MRMARQUES 72, or if you prefer, just drop a super thanks. Everything is appreciated. And with that said, I'm going to end the video here and invite you all to come back and check out the next video that I post.